Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of DC's Legends of Tomorrow. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I do appreciate that, Ava's making, a breakfast and everything, and everybody's contributing a little something to it. You have, Birad doing something, you have, Zari, and then Nate adding the rose, and it's oh gorgeous, don't think we haven't forgot about you, and they hook Mick up because it's right, none of this would be possible, we never really got a chance to thank you for everything. It's just can a man just eat in peace? And they send Ava off to be with Sarah, and it's oh, it's cute and adorable and amazing. I was oh, she's everything's gonna be normal, and the fact that Sarah didn't have much of an appetite, I'm is that an alien thing? And then she immediately spills the beans to Ava. I mean, it makes sense, no lies and everything, so you gotta immediately tell your fiance everything. But I was so surprised. She said, okay, I'm an alien human hybrid. And it's wait, what? And then cut to the credits on the title card. I'm that's so interesting. So it's okay, it's right, but let's keep this from the team, because no matter what your circumstances, I'm surprised. I think it's because Ava just doesn't want to bring up the C word, clone. So it's because I'm granted, your circumstances, you're just a normal clone. I'm also curious if she talk about they haven't really had time, because, Ava wanted to talk a little bit more about her experience and stuff like that. But because I was about to say, well, how will Ava feel about, there's a planet full of Ava clones out there. How would that make her feel? Obviously, once again, the clone conversation isn't one she's willing to have. But even then, it's even if she were to have it with Sarah, her circumstances are different. I'm a regular clone, nothing, mixed in with me. You're human, alien, and a clone, so that's a lot. But it's right, they want to just maintain as much normalcy as possible. And we also kind of get what I thought was going to pop up in the episode. I thought Spooner was going to feel it, because they attribute everything to Gary, what she's feeling. Because I love that at first she's I'm getting more feelings. It's oh, you must be feeling Gary or whatever. Because it's yeah, hiding the fact is she's actually, because I think Sarah's kind of stressed out about everything now that Ava knows the truth and everything. And that's probably just making her stressed out even more. And it's Spooner's yeah, I get this feeling Gary wants to bone Ava. And someone's oh yeah, that feels about right. Gary's what? No? I love that. I wonder, did he also tell Ava about the fact that he brings up the fact that, well, I haven't wanted to eat a human in years. It's well, that doesn't make it feel bad. I'm assuming ever since he came to Earth, he stopped wanting to eat humans because he got so attached to them. But I'm sure he had the fact is right, I missed you so much, Ava, but I did eat a whole bunch of clone versions of you while I was away and everything. But yeah, once again, the whole point is to just kind of pretend everything is normal. So, which I love the whole back and forth. They're trying to lift up that screen thing, and it's so heavy. And Astra is practicing her magic. I'm wondering what it was supposed to do, because all it did was heat up the thing. And Spooner's well, is that? It's just oh, I must have said the words wrong. I was was that supposed to make it explode or make Spooner explode or something? Obviously, you have Constantine asking Gary about the fountain of Imperium, and it's what? That? Oh, I have no idea. I'm oh, you're such a terrible liar, Gary. But obviously it's we're going to the west, which we haven't been here since the actually, I think the last time we went here was during Crisis. Was the Old West, because that's where they ran into, because was it Salvation? That's where they run into Jonah Hex. That's the last time we were in the West. Legends wise, I can't remember. But other than that, it's right, we're going to fit in. It's supposed to just be a normal romp. And obviously, it's interesting because Zari kind of starts picking up that maybe there's something between Beyrad and Astra, because she's my kind of place. And Beyrad is yeah, mine too. He's well, the fact of the matter is, my dad kind of had me into a bit of a cowboy face, because he wanted, just simulate into America really easily. So, and he's oh, some of it kind of stuff, but she's no, for me, it's more so the lawlessness. But then Zari's pointing out the fact is, oh, he's got a bad girl thing going on. I'm does he really? But then I think about it in retrospect, it's right, him and Charlie had a thing, and Charlie was kind of the bad girl of the crew, and now Astra kind of fits that bill. So I guess it kind of shows, kind of Nate's, I guess you could make the argument that Nate kind of has a type is unavailable women, because they're from different times than he is. So I guess that could always be the argument used against Nate and kind of classifying his type. But Yeah, it turns out this rough and tumble town that's supposed to be rough and tumble, not so rough and tumble because everyone in the town is actually super nice. They actually have rules like no cussing, no gambling, no fornicating, and all that. And it's like, what's up with this town? It's supposed to be a dangerous place, but it's like, right. And then like things are switched. Bass Reeves is a wanted criminal, and the dude that's the sheriff is actually supposed to be the wanted criminal. So it's like, what's up with that? And so it's like, right, this has got to be something alien related. So I love Astra's like playing cards with the dude, and he was like, oh, we're playing Go Fish. And no gambling, that's against the rules. But then like you have Barad and that lady Irma like hitting it off, which you have. It's so interesting that she's so I mean, I guess because she would know better than anyone his dating life. Aside from just her Charlie thing, I'm assuming that's something just from the regular lives she noticed. He always kind of goes for like the bad girl. Obviously, you can also tell Ava's actually kind of worried about Sarah because she keeps munching down like milkshakes, and it's like, what's that all about? In particular, it seems like she's kind of obsessed with cherries. Gary did suggest like he knew kind of what alien it was. We still never found out what alien it is that she is mixed with, because we don't know what I mean, we saw what happened with Amelia Earhart, like shifting alien wise, but that was more so because she was incompatible. Because Sarah is so strong mentally, she might not ever go full Resident Evil, and by that I mean like usually that's the whole shtick with Resident Evil stuff, where it's like, right, the person ends up becoming some blobbish monster or something. Not necessarily as a blobbish monster, but rather maintaining some human form, you turn into some mutant of some kind. That's kind of the whole thing. That's kind of like a Resident Evil thing to a certain, at least my limited experience with some of Resident Evil. But aside from all that, tangents aside, like, the fact is we haven't seen Sarah go full alien like that. Makes me wonder, is she capable of it? I mean, she probably is. She just probably has it more control. But if she ever fully lose control and doesn't kind of rein it in, that could potentially be where the story goes, where she gets consumed by the alien. But that's why Bishop wanted her to be the perfect host, because she'd be able to kind of control it and wouldn't lose herself like Amelia did, kind of losing her mind and eventually succumbing to the alien inside. So I like the reveal when it turns out, like, oh yeah, the alien they're dealing with basically is, as Gary described it, is a rage eater. It basically feeds off the energy, the chemicals in people's brains, and feasts on them because of it. I mean, it seems like anything and anyone that's angry. But I love it's like, right, because Nate early on in the episode put Spooner and Astra together because it was supposed to be a normal romp. Let's find the alien as soon as possible. But it's like, you two, you're going to become friends at the end of it all. It's kind of like, it was his ultimate plan because he wanted everyone to kind of pair up. He was like, no getting kidnapped, and God, I forgot the other thing he said, but I love that just being the thing of like, right, we're going to make this as straightforward as a mission, no shenanigans type of thing. But he told Spooner and Astra to stay on the ship, and it's like, wait, are you benching us? It's like, do you even have the authority for that? He's like, I don't know. Didn't feel right. It's like me taking, like, giving authority, like, because he's supposed to be the most chill one, which that plays a role in the episode. But they go do a square dancing thing just so they get, because the sheriff has control of the alien, like a special whistle, I guess, kind of made from its ship or something like that, the pod or whatever. But they enter a square dancing thing and try to get the whistle. So Sarah challenges him to a duel, a standoff, which is really interesting. Because part of me was worrying. I was like, well, Sarah doesn't have. I wonder, did she even contemplate that at the time? I'm kind of like, well, because she's always been the badass gunslinger. Like, she's always she's the most skilled person amongst the crew. So it's like, right. It's like, that's interesting to think about. But then it's like we showcase like that healing factor first. It's like, we're talking about Sarah Lance has beaten death multiple times, and now I was like, oh yeah, she has a stupid, powerful regenerative factor. Once again, we don't know how powerful it is. We don't know if we're going full Deadpool here with like how her regeneration works. I mean, granted, she survived a bullet to the head, so it's not like zombie rules don't even apply here. Like, oh, like there's no destroying her brain, but we don't know if it's like, right, just straight up decapitating her would be enough. Would she be able to just stick her head back on? Like, we don't know the extent of that. You also don't know what that means for her lifespan too. Like, she might technically be immortal right now because of like his healing factor and stuff like that. You know, I know it's crossing over to Marvel and stuff like that, but like that's why like Wolverine he was so old because he aged slowly because of his powers and everything. So I'm wondering, is potentially, that's something I hadn't even thought about, because of her healing factor. Maybe Sarah might be almost immortal at this point in time to a certain extent, which is interesting to think about. Well, she technically was. Wasn't it back in season 3? Was she technically immortal then? Maybe not. Maybe I'm misremembering. But yeah, she struggles every bullet the dude shoots at her, and it's just like asking Gary, what the hell happened on the planet? Which I also love Gary doing a 1, 2, and it's like, are you serious? Shut up, Gary. Gary? Like, okay, sorry. Like, he tried to fit the mood of doing the count and the paces. But obviously the worm ends up eating home dude, and it's like, yeah, the town's free, let's get that whistle. Irma's like, no, because Boss ends up revealing to both Astra and Spooner that basically that worm is that town's gold mine, because it literally poops gold. Which I thought that was kind of I thought that was kind of a neat thing of like, right, Spooner and Astra, because initially Astra's just kind of like whatever to her, because it's like, because Astra and her have two different perspectives on things. Because Astra grew up in hell, it was kind of all about taking your power and getting whatever you need. Because it is the thing of like, why do you need the gold? She's like, we could literally fabricate some gold on the ship. It's like, it's not about the gold. Well, it's partially about the gold, but for her, it's like showing people, like, if she sees something, she can get it. It's like, you don't know these people. You literally are never going to meet these people again, because you're probably not going to be in this time frame anytime soon. But it's like, she feels the need to like, right, there's something here that needs to be got, I'm gonna get it because it needs to be me, because she's all about collecting power and flexing on her power, because that's how you survived in hell. And Spooner was kind of the opposite. Rather than kind of flexing her power and stuff like that, she's kind of always been afraid of it, because it just always made her feel like an outsider. So ever since she lost her mom, and it's like she ended up living in like foster homes and stuff like that. So it was all about keeping her head down for her, which immediately Astra's like, whoa, your mom? Like, obviously, it's like, that obviously, touches, kind of connects him in that regard of like, right, I know what it's like. But I think it's an interesting reaction of like, well, the circumstances that they both grew up in weren't normal circumstances, and like the situation that led to them losing their mom are very different things. So it's like, it's almost like, oh, here's these two characters and how they both reacted to like, I mean, which different paths they once, like I said, like Astra becoming all about power and flexing, whereas Spooner was about like, nah, I'm gonna keep my head down type of thing. So. And since I brought him up earlier, Bass Reeves, I thought it was so interesting. I saw special guest starring David Ramsey. I was like, oh, he's going to be in this episode. Cool. Didn't know. I was curious under what circumstances, but then when it's like, oh, he's Bass Reeves, I was like, that's interesting. Now, I don't know what to insinuate for that. Like, one, it could just be like, oh, is that supposed to imply that Diggle is his descendant? Maybe. That'd be pretty dope. Or it could just be like is it just supposed to be like a fun wink and nod, like, Legends breaks the fourth wall all the time type of thing. So it's like, maybe it's something related to that. Because, like, once again, David Ramsey directed an episode of Superman and Lois. He was in an episode of Batwoman like 2 episodes ago. And then on top of that, he was also, now he's in this. So part of me is also thinking, like, from a production side of things, it's like, well, David, you're already up here in Canada directing or doing one of these things, so why don't we kind of try and fit you into much of the Arrowverse stuff while you're here, it's like you're a legacy act in this universe, so like, why not, use you as much as possible? I'm sure the fans would love to see you again. The Arrowverse DC fans would love to see you again. So maybe it's something as simple as that, because we also never got a resolution to what the hell that thing in Batwoman was when, like, he was talking to Luke, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna check out that hospital, and like something's with his head and stuff like that. I'm like, we never found out what the hell that was about. Obviously, Argus has gotten mentioned in like the Flash, but other than like, so I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like I said, it could go either way. I'm fine with either or. I'd like to believe that he's actually like a descendant of Bass Reeves. So I was like, oh, that'd be pretty dope at that. That'd also explain, because even when Sarah saw him was like, dig? He's like, yes, I do dig this situation. But basically, when things went sideways in town, they all kind of locked themselves in the saloon. And the sad thing is, because they're locked in the saloon, this is where a lot of the underlying issues kind of come to the surface. I was actually surprised that John is so pissed at Gary. He's sort of pissed because it's like, right, you lied to me about being human and everything, and it turns out you're an alien. It's like, is it what? Man, you've taken, like, John's taking that so personally. I mean, I guess it's also because, like, it's like, he's like, despite the ups and downs, like, he's always liked Gary, which I even love Gary being like, oh, Ava, I missed you, I've missed us, and then saying the same thing to John. But like, I think it's so interesting that, it's also because John wants to go after the fountain, and he knows Gary's lying about it. So I guess it's just like, right, more lies stacked on top of lies. It's like you lied so much in, like, because regardless, I guess it's also because not only was Gary his pupil, Gary was his friend. You know, I mean, except for the time Gary kind of went evil when he got his nipple bitten off by a unicorn. Aside from that, but I even love Nate being like, "Oh, we need to sing a song. How about this? Or how about thong song? We love the thong song." I'm like, keep taking it back to the finale. But regardless, I just had to get that out of my head because it was there. But I just thought that was interesting that John was like acting like that. But I guess it's like, right, he's being betrayed and lied to by such a good friend, especially because he's in such a desperate need for magic. So, but then Bear Rod and Zari are just like back and forth because she's just like every time it's like, you should listen to me. I'm your older sister. You should listen to my advice when it comes to relationships and stuff like that. He's like, okay. Then Sarah and Ava having their back and forth because it's like, right, things aren't as normal as they thought they would be. And then Nate had to be the one to kind of yell and keep, like, put everyone in place. And I love that he went on his tirade about the fact is, so a lot of you are boning and happy and engaged relationships and stuff like that. And I'm all alone when I had to lose the whole Zari thing. And he goes over to Zari. He's like, honestly, it's nothing. It's not you or it's not fault. It's just kind of like, this isn't like either or type of thing. So I love that during his berating, like his yelling and stuff like that, he would, had to say that. But I also love like his other complaints, like, right, no one replaces the cartridges in the fabricator, and Gary's like, what, they'll take cartridges? And then just like being on the ship with like 6 people, well, that was leaning into the cartridge thing, but just like all his like resentments and stuff like that he always has to be the cool one and pretend like everything's okay. And it's like, no, Nate's fine. Like, no one has to worry about him because he has to be like, once again, always the cool one. And I love on the outside, he was just like, I figured he was drawing the thing. I thought his plan was going to be like steel up because like, right, it's hard on the outside is what we kind of heard. So I was thinking like, oh, he's going to try and get on the inside and beat it up. Which, speaking of, like, because he's stealing up and everything, I love that he's like, so Sarah, you're bulletproof? And she's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, kind of welcome to the team on Team Legends, all bulletproof people. Yeah, Team Bulletproof. I love it. I thought that was so dope. But also, like, I love his final argument where he was like, and I also asked for a seat at the justice table, and I never got a call back. I was like, poor Nate. To be fair, a lot of the superhero teams got shafted because there's only one member from every show that's a part of the Justice League. You can make an argument that Supergirl cheated. The show Supergirl cheated because they got 2 people in there. Because they got Superman and Supergirl. Because technically at the time of him joining Legends, Superman and Lois wasn't a separate show at the time. So he was still part of Supergirl, so technically Supergirl got 2. But now you can make the argument, well, Superman and Lois, but it still got 2 Kryptonians. No other member of the superhero squads have gotten that. There's not multiple Bats. There's not multiple Canaries. There's not multiple Flashes currently. It's one of everybody. There's one Black Lightning, one Batwoman, one White Canary, one Flash, and 2 supers, so that's why I'm like, it's funny to think about. It's like, once again, this show breaking the fourth. I was like, poor Nate wanting a seat at the table. It's like, yeah, everyone should technically, not just the main members, like, how big the Justice League roster is. Literally everyone on every show should be a part of the Justice League at this point in time. But it's funny. But I love that at the end of the day, it was Spooner and Astra working together. Like, Spooner was able to kind of finally flex her power and stop the alien, but then Astra came in for spell and melted it. So I was like, those two, like, their bond they're going to get even stronger over the course of this episode. So, and Nate's just kind of back to himself, being like, "Whew, it was kind of felt nice to get that all out." He's like, "Hey," and everyone thumbs him up and everything. So that kind of works out in the end. But I did think it was interesting what they were saying about Bass Reeves about like, oh yeah, like, it's so interesting, like, you were able to like survive this entire time and not get swallowed by that worm. It's kind of what Astro was saying. For him, it's like, yeah, I was angry for a while, but then I knew that the people in this town underestimated me, so I used that to my advantage, because he's like, I locked away so many of these people already because they underestimated me. And it's like, Spooner's like, yeah, and you use that as your power. And then he was like, see, she gets it, so things have returned to normal. It's kind of become the criminal place that it once was again, but I also love, like, I love the entire episode. There is the guitar singing the guitar playing, singing narrator. So I love that. And obviously back on the ship, we round up a lot of the stories because Gary had pointed out to John that actually the map to the fountain, no human could ever figure it out, but in actuality every alien has realized it's Earth. So the fountain's got to be somewhere on Earth then, if that's the case. But the only person who knows, have any idea where that map is Alistair Crowley, and we obviously had to deal with that a couple episodes ago. So we'll see if he'd be so willing to work around. But Gary's like, nah, I trust that things will work out. Obviously, John having to say goodbye to Zari while he goes off on this mission. I guess Astra and Spooner had their moment, so because they didn't really have something at the end. I guess their bonding this episode was kind of that. Zari and they're on makeup, you know, and obviously it's like, right, there's someone that kind of needs, you know, uplifting a little bit more, so they both give their totems to Nate, like, yeah, go visit Zari, because he made it clear, yeah, he was, you know, those are real frustrations that were there. He's always been a cool, calm, collected person. Because that was another thing he had pointed out I thought was interesting. I love that other argument where he was like, basically he got no love because, did you guys even think about the fact is when Mick was gone, I was the only OG amongst the group. It's like, right, because after Mick, he's like the next tier of like legends, because, you know, everyone else that's still around joined after him. So he's a second generation, and everyone else is, in some cases, third and fourth generation, even fifth generation legends at this point in time. You know, so that is kind of interesting to think. I was thinking about like, right, I was so focused on like, oh yeah, Sarah and Mick are the only like OGs. It's like, yeah, but he's an OG in his own right because Nate's been a part of the show since season 2. You know, so yeah, that's just something I thought was just kind of interesting to think about. But I like that. That's always going to be a thing of like, right, he can meet Zari. It's always going to be inside the totems and everything, but that's still nice. I also love that we get Mick sleeping and reading. Once again, I love that that Rebecca Silver. I just love that just being like a little background thing. I was like, once again, Mona's still writing, and that's something even newer that Mona's written under that whole situation. And then you have Sarah and Ava. They've kind of cleared things up between them because, you know, it's like, right, like, we were both trying so hard to be normal, but it's like, right, our relationship, we've never been normal, so why did we try so hard? So I was like, yeah, and they just kind of embraced it. Obviously got some of that passion stuff from Zari mixed in, and, you know, kind of have their fun time. But I love that, because that's why I was like unclear. I was like, is he supposed to be there? Or is like, I guess it's like, maybe he's just metaphorically there, and he's singing all this stuff. I guess the fact is that he's singing stuff, because normally throughout the episode, he's just singing stuff that he's seeing. So the fact is that would prove that he's on the ship. And I love Ava being like, I told you guys we can't keep the singing narrator. And they're like, sorry about that. And, you know, it's like, well, normal, you know, that things not being normal. He's like, that's fine enough or whatever. And that's the last thing in the episode. So I thought that was, once again, just a fun episode all around. Obviously, some character development and progression all around, too, you know? I mean, that's what the Legends do best of, like, right, there's, oh, that was the other thing, right? No getting kidnapped and no personal drama. That's what Nate was. It took me literally the entire review to remember that. But, yeah, because those are usually aspects of a typical, because to be fair, that would be a normal Legends romp, you know? Would be one, if not both of those things happening. But regardless, like I said, just a fun time. I'm really interested to see where everything ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. Obviously, this new normal for everybody. What alien they're going to come across next. I'm still curious about the whole Kayla thing. I wonder if Mick's going to bring that up at any point in time. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah. There's no new episode of Legends of Tomorrow next week, but there will be one the week after next on July 11th. So do keep that in mind. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.